Welcome to another edition of the Invisible Wheelchair Podcast. I'm Donald Grodoff, family coach with FamilyOCD.com and FocusedHealthyFamily.com. In the Invisible Wheelchair Podcast series, I delve into the hidden characteristics of OCD, anxiety, and anxiety disorders. The things that most people don't see, that are behind closed doors and shut within the mind about anxiety. My goal with these podcasts is to bring about awareness of obsessive-compulsive disorder, or OCD. Understand that I am not a doctor, therapist, or counselor, and the content, information, resources, and ideas that are talked about and brought up here in these podcasts are things that I have used, discovered, or have been recommended to me, and I always recommend to seek additional professional help in finding solutions for yourself. Thank you for listening and enjoy the podcast. This podcast was recorded October 24th, 2019. This is podcast 34 called Parenting, a Research Project. And today I'm doing this as I drive. I'm just getting back from dropping my daughter in Raleigh, North Carolina, from Charlotte, where we live, where she is actually doing some work with her aunt, who is a dog person who does dog business. She trains and she's mentoring my daughter in dog training and boarding and all kinds of things. And I thought, being a parent myself, that it was important to do this when I can, because my life is quite busy in parenting, so I have about 2.5 more hours here of driving that I figured it could be filled with doing a podcast. And the reason for the title, Parenting a Research Project, was my wife recently sent me a TED Talk from a lady who was talking about gifted people and gifted children. And during that talk, the lady said something I thought was humorous, but it also fit really well. She said, after I got married, I started a research project called Parenting. And like I said, I thought that was rather humorous. In fact, everybody in the audience laughed. But then I thought about it and I thought, well, that really makes sense. That parenting is a big research project, a lifelong research project. And being a parent myself, and on top of it, being a parent of 2 children with special needs, I could see where my research project, or our research project as a family, as my wife and I go through it, is just a slightly more enlarged project than others. But as I thought about it, it is really true, because in parenting, it is a trial and error, as in any project, any research project, any type of scientific study. You know, your subjects in this case are the children. But in any of those type of scenarios, whether it's a scientific study or a research project, you're doing research, you're having to learn as I think she talked about, the unknown and make it known. And you're making trials and errors. And the failures, or the errors, not really failures, but errors, are really learning lessons that help teach you what you really want. They help show you what you don't want so that you know what you do want. And it helps you step by step to get to what you want. It's kind of like the idea of, I think it was Edison with the light bulb, how he failed 1,000 times with the light bulb, but they really weren't failures. Each time, he just looked at it as an advance to the next step that got him closer to the final product. And that's what we do with children. I recently have been working with a parent, and they had this feeling of failing, like they had let their children down because it seemed like they didn't quite come out the way they wanted them to come out, because really it was set on their own expectations of what. But I always talk to them about the idea of the contrast, which I think I've done a podcast on that how important it is for children to have times when things don't work out. I don't know if, like I said, I don't like the word failing so much, but they have to be able to make mistakes, mess up, so that they can learn. Because, I think, I don't know what the percentage would be, but I would say probably 80% of the time, or maybe even more, children learn from experience versus being taught. One of the things this lady talked about is that, kids really we're here as parents to facilitate them learning on their own, them coming through things on their own. So we're in this research project, which we do a lot of research. Oh my gosh, because there's no rule book on this. Now, there's a lot of people that have written books, done talks, teach us different things. But there again, we have to research it and find out what's true for us. We have to figure out what part of that fits and what doesn't, because not everything out there, you can't follow everybody's path. So we have to research, and we have to conclude from our own testing, from our own studies, from our own research, what works best for our family, our kids. And the neat thing about it is, just like with studies they have to have the double-blind testing, and all the different variations of testing, some people getting placebos. Well, if you think about our children, we have a variation of styles, personalities within our own family. So it gives us the ability to research and do these trials and all, using different subjects with different paths in their life. And so it makes it very interesting. And so it makes our research vibrant. If you think about it, if all our kids were exactly the same, they were robots basically, there would be no way of being able to learn different and new things. Whereas an example of my own family is we have different personality styles in all three of my kids. And in that, one child learns off the other, because one child doesn't go through his feelings like the other child does. And so through that interaction between the two, one does learn a little bit better, a little bit more about how to see other people's feelings and how to deal with it. And in truth, both of them learn how to understand each other's feelings, understand that person that can't necessarily feel feelings, or necessarily get as in touch with the feelings, I should say. They do feel feelings, that's not true. So it is a research project. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I'm not sure, when you're dealing with a child with special needs, that research project is much more extensive, much more expansive. What's always tough is to hear, people say, well, either God or, the universe provides to those that can handle it. And some days I just want to say, I don't think I can handle it anymore. But yet I know I can. And I think there again, with the idea of a research project or a study, it helps us to learn new things and what works and what doesn't. It also helps us to expand our ability to handle it by understanding it. Understanding what a personality that has OCD is like helps us to understand it, but also helps us to deal with it better and better. Not right away, because that research project goes on for life. It just changes and morphs. And we're researching new. We're kind of almost like an R&D part of a company, always looking for a new way to market ourselves, a new way to shape ourselves as a family through that research, through the findings, to be able to reinvent ourselves over and over again to improve ourselves, which I believe, as I look at my own family, I see that all the time. We do improve ourselves. We have improved ourselves from back 10 years ago when we first got kind of wrapped into the OCD scenario. So I always like to remind parents to I'm not sure if I'm saying this right, to first off be compassionate to yourself, to know that we are going to make mistakes, but these mistakes are really contrast. They are really the lessons that teach our kids how to get through it, how to solve it, how to do their own research, how to come to their own conclusions in that research. So be compassionate to yourselves, to allow yourselves to be awkward, to be vulnerable. You know, listen to Brene Brown talk about vulnerability. She does a TED Talk on it, and it's wonderful. But it's very important. Letting our kids see us being vulnerable can allow them to know it's all right to be vulnerable, to be able to make mistakes. Because if they see us make the mistakes and get through it and solve it and resolve it, to see us argue, not abusively, not violently, but to see us have disagreements between myself and my wife or different members of the family, and then watch us be able to work our way through it, gives them the greatest lesson they can have in how to, when they get into an argument, know how to get through it. So be compassionate to yourself. Know that you're going to make mistakes. Accept the mistakes. Accept the thoughts too. Any negative thoughts and positive thoughts for that matter. It's very important to first accept them, no matter what they are, no matter how harsh they are. No matter if there are days when you don't want to be a parent, when you want to just run off to the beach, when you need 10 minutes to count down, cool down, and make a different change in what you're doing. It's okay. Let your kids know. Find time for yourself. Accept the thoughts no matter what, because in refusing the thoughts or pushing them away only causes them to grow and be stronger. So it is a research project, a lifelong research project. I think it even goes on after they move out, after they are an adult. You never really give up wanting to do the best for them, wanting to find out the best way to help them, because they're your kids. So enjoy your research project. Understand that it is a research project that's going to have trials and errors, and those errors are going to be the learning lessons that'll take them on to the next thing. So enjoy your research project, your lifelong research project, and know that it's okay. Whatever the results, they can be changed, they can be moved on, reflected on all of that. So enjoy the research project called Parenting, because you're doing a good job. This concludes this podcast. We really would appreciate your comments. Simply leave a comment at www.invisiblewheelchair.com. There, you're able to submit a comment that will help us determine future podcasts. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the podcast, please email don@invisiblewheelchair.com. Remember, there is a corresponding tapping recording for each of the podcasts, with the exception of the interview podcast. You can find these tapping recordings and archive past podcasts at www.invisiblewheelchair.com. Finally, there is relief for OCD, and we at FamilyOCD.com and FocusedHealthyFamily.com can help you find that relief. Again, you can contact us through those sites, FamilyOCD.com or FocusedHealthyFamily.com. You can also find us on Facebook at Invisible Wheelchair Podcast. You can find us on Twitter at InvisibleWheel1, that's the number 1, or at FamilyOCD. So thank you for listening. Keep tapping and transcending your life to new heights.